It was expected, but Bill C-21 has received royal assent. Now, this means a few things, and I'm not going to delve into any legal, as in things that would come up in a legal challenge. I'm not a lawyer. Stick to Ian Runkle for that. But I can tell you what is going to happen next. Now, the Canada Gun subreddit, if you want to just read through what people are saying, there's the sticky post about C-21 being passed by the Senate, which has now received royal assent. You can go through and read a whole bunch of these guys' thoughts or whatever, but the parts you need to know are right here. Certain firearm parts will now be regulated. This includes magazines, barrels, sum actions, handgun slides, etc. If you want to buy or sell these parts, you need a PAL to verify a purchaser's PAL to sell it. So, in terms of buying from a store, it's going to be no different than when you buy ammo, and it's going to be no different when you're selling when you're buying ammo. It's the same thing. So, you can do the PAL check online with the RCMP website. If you're selling in person, you just need to see the PAL because it's just like ammo, as far as I'm aware. And if you're buying at a store, it's just like when you're buying ammo. That's it. In my opinion, that's actually not a terrible change. If you're going to accept that there's a licensing system, it's not like the worst thing. Maybe it adds a little bit of annoyance, but it's not that crazy. Uh, any parts that come across the border will need PAL verification. We have no idea how this is going to be done. The most important thing is to just use a broker. I Run Guns, Aztec Armory, whatever. They have to figure out how the hell they're going to set this part of the law up, but this has to be figured out. Um, Newly designed firearms. This is the big one, right? Well, it's one of the two big ones. Fuck, this bill sucks. Uh, any newly designed firearms that have a capacity of 6+ rounds or can take a magazine that can use 6+ rounds is going to be automatically prohibited. Now, there are a couple ways around this. Anything that is currently in the FRT now, and you can go to armalytics.ca and you can search up every single gun that is in the RCMP firearms reference table. Everything. You can filter by guns that are affected by the OIC that are not. Now, one of the last ones that actually got an FRT is this the ATF. It's kind of funny. It's called the ATF SBR9 prototype. Now, I Run Guns. It's basically a Glock, but not a Glock because the frame of it has a option for a stock and it has a place for a magazine. Excuse me, magazine holder that also doubles as a foregrip, but it takes all Glock parts. So this is the closest we're going to be able to get to a handgun. I want to review it, but it might not come in until later in 2024. But they did get an FRT for it, so that's pretty cool. But if you want to look up any gun that you might think of, if it has a restricted or non-restricted status, it can still be imported and it can still be sold so long as you have a license. Now, all of the handgun stuff that kicked in back in, oh god, how long ago was it now? It's been over a year. I guess, yeah, it would have been over a year. So back in, well, October, November of 2022, all of that stuff is now enshrined in law. That means if the conservatives want to reverse it, a brand new bill needs to be passed. They cannot just undo it with an order in council. The only thing they can undo with an order in council now is the May 2020 OIC. That's it. And because all of those firearms were designed and they would be put back to their previous classification, they could still be sold. This definition should not affect the reclassification of those firearms. There is a new definition of a replica firearm. The Liberals tried to ban airsoft as a gateway gun, which is fucking hilarious and sad at the same time. That got a lot of pushback. Basically, the only thing the NDP did was save airsoft. So that got changed. There is a new definition, but airsoft isn't banned, but no one really knows exactly how it works. Like Runkle says, it's going to be an expensive question to answer. So you're fine with all your airsoft stuff they have now if you play airsoft or train with airsoft or whatever. That's fine. Just know that there might be some kind of change that we just don't know about yet. And of course, there are some swatting provisions, which like extreme red flag laws that even it's bad when the anti-gun antichrist Pauly Saint-Sylvain didn't want those, and they still somehow made it through. So it's crazy that that even made it through, but that is also part of it. But I'm just talking about acquiring and using guns in this part. So the bill is passed. That's what it is. Now, what can we expect for the future? When can we buy things again? When the conservatives come in or whatever. So, like I said, the thing the conservatives can do on day one that they get into power in parliament is to undo the May 2020 OIC. That means all of our AR-15s, Mini 14s, all that, we get them back at the classification they were before. Not whatever the conservatives want. I believe there is a law that prevents OICs from downgrading classification, but they can issue an OIC canceling the previous OIC, which puts them back to their previous classification. A bit confusing, but basically we can get those back. That can happen on day one. Whether it happens on day one, I don't know, but it can happen. Now, what else? What also happens is if the conservatives win, they're obviously not going to ban more guns via order in council. So right now there is that looming threat of will the liberals ban more guns via order in council? Common sense says no. You can go check out Caliber Mag's video on he did a month or two ago. He delves into why it's just not happening. It can't happen logistically. It's impossible. So if you want to deep dive into that, go check that out. And then, of course, there's the new bill. Now, Pierre has said many times over that he wants to uh, unstop the hunting gun ban, which is just their way of saying undo the gun ban that Trudeau has brought forward. I believe it is also, I don't know if it's party policy or if he has said that he wants to rewrite the entire Firearms Act. Now, what that looks like in practice, we just don't know. We don't know what rewriting the Firearms Act looks like in practice. But if it happens, it could be some years before we can get our handguns back and before we can get any newly designed rifles back. So, if there is an election that happens in the winter, let's say in February or something, it's probably not, but hypothetically, that's like the earliest it could happen. Say it happens in February. From then on, if the Conservatives won a majority government, it would take probably at least 3 or 4 months to write a brand new Firearms Act. A lot of stuff would be kept, but a lot of stuff would be new, and it would be a very intricate bill to write. So it would take at least 3 or 4 months just to write the thing. So that puts us into the spring, heading into summer. And then they introduce it. And then there's a summer break. And typically, firearm bills in Canada take 18 months, plus or minus 2 months. So extend that all the way out. We are now in the year mark, 2025, and then push it. We're looking at winter of 2025 at the absolute earliest, which is very unlikely, especially because of start date. And if we push it into a summer election, we're looking at early 26 to middle 26. If we don't have an election until the next scheduled election, which is in the fall of 2025, and the Conservatives take a year or two to introduce this bill, we are not going to see handguns or newly designed rifles until as late as 2028 or early 2029. So this has severely fucked us for quite a while. Now, the good news is we can still have a lot of the guns that we have now. The bad news is a lot of them are very expensive. The best thing I can hope for is that for the Canadian manufacturers that manufacture the relatively more affordable ones, that they fix up their quality control issues. But, that's what we're going to be stuck with. Now, one last thing is there is one more way around this definition. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to happen. I don't know if there are any manufacturers that are actually doing this. But the definition very specifically says that it's only prohibited if it's a newly designed rifle that has the capability of taking an over 5 round magazine. So, every gun in the world can take an over 5 round magazine. I think almost every gun in the world. Like, every rifle in the world certainly has, which means they're all prohibited if they're newly designed. However, if that rifle, or shotgun actually, uh, has a magazine that has only ever existed with a 5 round magazine, that rifle or shotgun could be non restricted or restricted. So, if a Canadian manufacturer really wanted to, they could design a magazine from the ground up that can physically only ever take 5 rounds and never manufacture another magazine that takes more than 5 rounds, and they can sell that gun and it's still fine. So, also, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, this only applies to semi-auto center-fired rifles. Your bolt actions and rimfires are fine. I hope I didn't freak any of you out throughout this whole video if I forgot to mention that. But it's possible that we could get that. Now, Canadian manufacturing history says to be a bit wary of it. It's not unbelievable to have a manufacturer make a new magazine in Canada. BCL actually makes 20 round 5.56 magazines for their Bison line of firearms. So it's not impossible for someone like BCL or Kodiak or hell, maybe even Lockhart to manufacture their own magazines. So that's basically all the news. That's all we have. It's not great news. It's not the news we all wanted, but it is what it is. This was fully expected, especially after they rammed it through the House in the just before the summer session kicked in. We knew it was going to get royal assent before the end of the year. So that's where we are. I will have the top 8 guns of the year video coming out on Wednesday. Keep an eye out for that. And that will be the last video of the year. And then hopefully I'll have some new stuff. Probably starting out in February. But thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the videos this year. Let's hope for a better year for firearms news than the last fucking 8 years. Have a good day.